Jacob heard that grain was available in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you standing around looking at one another? I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy enough grain to keep us alive. Otherwise, we'll die." So Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain, but Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them, for fear some harm might come to him. So Jacob's sons arrived in Egypt along with others to buy food, for the famine was in Canaan as well. Since Joseph was governor of all Egypt and in charge of selling grain to all the people, it was to him that his brothers came. When they arrived, they bowed before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph recognized his brothers instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where are you from?" he demanded. "From the land of Canaan," they replied. "We have come to buy food." Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't recognize him, and he remembered the dreams he'd had about them many years before. He said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "No, my lord," they exclaimed. "Your servants have simply come to buy food. We are all brothers, members of the same family. We are honest men, sir. We are not spies." "Yes, you are," Joseph insisted. "You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "Sir," they said, "there are actually 12 of us. We, your servants, are all brothers, sons of a man living in the land of Canaan. Our youngest brother is back there with our father right now, and one of our brothers is no longer with us." But Joseph insisted, "As I said, you are spies. This is how I will test your story. I swear by the life of Pharaoh that you will never leave Egypt unless your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother. I'll keep the rest of you here in prison. Then we'll find out whether or not your story is true. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out that you don't have a younger brother, then I'll know you are spies." So Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "I am a God-fearing man. If you do as I say, you will live. If you really are honest men, choose one of your brothers to remain in prison. The rest of you may go home with grain for your starving families. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. This will prove that you are telling the truth, and you will not die." To this they agreed. Speaking among themselves, they said, "Clearly we are being punished because of what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his anguish when he pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen. That's why we're in this trouble." "Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy?" Reuben asked. "But you wouldn't listen, and now we have to answer for his blood." Of course, they didn't know that Joseph understood them, for he had been speaking to them through an interpreter. Now he turned away from them and began to weep. When he regained his composure, he spoke to them again. Then he chose Simeon from among them and had him tied up right before their eyes. Joseph then ordered his servants to fill the men's sacks with grain, but he also gave secret instructions to return each brother's payment at the top of his sack. He also gave them supplies for their journey home. So the brothers loaded their donkeys with the grain and headed for home. But when they stopped for the night and one of them opened his sack to get grain for his donkey, he found his money in the top of his sack. "Look," he exclaimed to his brothers, "my money has been returned. It's here in my sack." Then their hearts sank. Trembling, they said to each other, "What has God done to us?" When the brothers came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened to them. "The man who is governor of the land spoke very harshly to us," they told him. "He accused us of being spies scouting the land. But we said, 'We are honest men, not spies.' We are 12 brothers, sons of one father. One brother is no longer with us, and the youngest is at home with our father in the land of Canaan." Then the man who is governor of the land told us, "This is how I will find out if you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take grain for your starving families and go on home. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. Then I will know you are honest men and not spies. Then I will give you back your brother, and you may trade freely in the land." As they emptied out their sacks, there in each man's sack was the bag of money he had paid for the grain. The brothers and their father were terrified when they saw the bags of money. Jacob exclaimed, "You are robbing me of my children. Joseph is gone, Simeon is gone, and now you want to take Benjamin too. Everything is going against me." Then Reuben said to his father, "You may kill my 2 sons if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. I'll be responsible for him, and I promise to bring him back." But Jacob replied, "My son will not go down with you. His brother Joseph is dead, and he is all I have left. If anything should happen to him on your journey, you would send this grieving, white-haired man to his grave."
Okay, so, are you ready? Because today we are diving into a story. And let me tell you, this story has got it all. Family drama, mistaken identity, high stakes, the whole 9 yards.
It's a classic for a reason.
We're talking about a story that's as old as time, but trust me, you've never heard it quite like this.
Oh, I agree. This is one you think you know, but...
We are cracking open the book of Genesis, chapter 42.
Here we go.
To a pivotal moment in the story of Joseph and his brothers. Now, you might think, oh yeah, that one, jealous brothers, a pit, that amazing coat. But trust me, there are layers here you wouldn't believe.
It's one of those stories that just continues to resonate thousands of years later, and for good reason.
Right, so for anyone needing a quick refresher, Joseph, he was the youngest and let's just say the clear favorite of his father, Jacob.
Definitely the favorite.
And this did not sit well with his brothers.
Understatement of the century.
And let's just say, their jealousy, it led to some seriously bad decisions.
Like what?
Like selling Joseph into slavery.
It's leaving him for dead. Come on, it's brutal. It's a classic story of sibling rivalry, but we also have to remember the historical context here. We're talking about a patriarchal society, ancient Egypt, where inheritance, land ownership, a father's favoritism, these weren't just family matters. This was everything.
Everything. So years pass, and a devastating famine, it hits the very land where Joseph's family lives. Food is scarce, people are desperate, and wouldn't you know it, the one holding the keys to the grain supply is
Joseph himself.
Joseph. Talk about a power shift.
Can you imagine the desperation of those times? Famine, this wasn't just an inconvenience, right? It meant the potential collapse of entire communities. Whoever controlled the food, they controlled everything.
And here come the brothers, those same ones who betrayed Joseph all those years ago, traveling to Egypt in search of food. And get this, they have absolutely no idea that their long-lost brother, the one they left for dead, is now the powerful governor standing between them and, well, starvation.
It's almost Shakespearean, isn't it? I mean, this complete unawareness that they are about to come face to face with the very brother they wronged.
So the stage is set for one unforgettable encounter. Now, the book of Genesis, it tells us that Joseph recognized his brothers instantly.
Instantly.
But here's the kicker. They have absolutely no clue who he is.
Well, can you blame them? This is years later. He's had years to build a new life. He probably looks completely different, maybe even speaks a different language by this point.
That's true. Talk about a role reversal.
I know, right?
And Joseph, instead of, rushing to embrace them, well, let's just say he goes a different route. He decides to play it cool, pretends he doesn't recognize them. And get this.
Yeah.
He even accuses them of being spies.
I love it. This is where the story takes a fascinating psychological turn. Because to really grasp what's happening here, we have to try to step into Joseph's shoes for a moment. This is someone who has experienced profound trauma. We're talking betrayal by his own flesh and blood.
Right.
It's only human, wouldn't you say, that he would want to regain a sense of control, to see if his brothers have changed at all.
It's almost as if he needs to test them before he can even think about revealing himself.
Exactly. And what better way to gauge their character than to put them in a situation where they're completely vulnerable and dependent on him. He's watching their every move, listening to their every word.
He's got them right where he wants them. I mean, really, Joseph could have just, revealed himself.
Well,
right then and there.
Oh, absolutely.
But he doesn't.
Oh.
He comes up with this pretty elaborate plan.
It's a doozy.
Okay, so picture this. Joseph, he throws the brothers another curveball.
Oh, no. What now?
He demands that they, get this, bring their youngest brother Benjamin back to Egypt with them.
Benjamin. Okay.
Now remember, Benjamin was not involved in selling Joseph into slavery.
Right, he was just a kid.
He's their father's new favorite.
Oh boy, this is going to be good. And they shared the same mother, right?
Yes, Benjamin and Joseph, they share the same mother, Rachel, which just adds this whole other layer of emotional complexity, especially for their father, Jacob.
For sure, especially for Jacob.
So Joseph, he says he needs to see Benjamin, just to make sure the brothers are telling the truth about their family. But to really turn up the heat, he decides to keep one of the brothers, Simeon, as collateral.
Wow. Just wow. Can you even imagine that journey back home? The weight of their guilt, the fear for their family's survival. I mean, that's a lot to process.
And then they have to go back to their father, Jacob, and explain that, oh, by the way, not only did we meet this powerful Egyptian official who's now holding Simeon hostage.
Oh boy, here it comes.
This official, yeah, he wants to be Benjamin too.
You've got to be kidding. Talk about a tough conversation. Poor Jacob. I mean, this is a man who believes his beloved son Joseph is dead, right? And now Simeon is gone, and they want to take Benjamin too. Just heartbreaking.
It's like everything that could go wrong is going wrong. And then on top of everything else, when they get back home, they find the money that they used to buy grain. It's tucked back into their sacks.
No way. Really?
Like some kind of bad omen.
It's like, what in the world is going on here? This is where that idea of divine justice comes into play, right?
Right.
Or karma. Are the brothers finally experiencing the consequences of their actions all those years ago?
It really makes you wonder about the long reach of guilt, and the possibility of redemption, even after all this time.
Absolutely. I mean, this story has resonated for centuries. Centuries. Because it grapples with those very human questions.
So the brothers are trapped because they desperately need more food, but Jacob, he refuses to risk losing another son.
I can't even imagine.
It's an impossible situation. But the famine, it's relentless. They eventually run out of grain.
They had to. What choice did they have?
Can you imagine that anguish for Jacob? To choose between starvation and potentially losing another son?
It's just, there are no words.
So they pack up, hearts heavy with dread and guilt, and they head back to Egypt for a second time.
With Benjamin.
With Benjamin.
Yeah.
And that money, they decide to bring it back with them.
Oh, I bet, just in case.
Just in case. And this is where things get really interesting. Because when Joseph, when he sees them arrive and he sees Benjamin, everything changes. I mean, he just can't hold it back anymore.
Years, right, of waiting, of wondering, of just wrestling with his past. It all just comes to a head.
Totally. He invites all 11 brothers to a feast at his own house.
Oh, this is good. And remember, they still have no idea who he is.
No idea.
These are rough shepherds, right?
Yeah.
Being treated like honored guests by this powerful Egyptian official.
I know. But you can bet that Joseph is watching their every move.
Every single one.
Listening to their every word, just trying to figure out like what is truly in their hearts after all these years.
It's like he needs this, not just a feast, but like a glimpse into their souls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has their character changed? Have they learned anything from their past mistakes?
I love that because it's such a powerful exploration of forgiveness, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. And reconciliation,
And this deep, this complicated bond of family.
Absolutely.
That can endure even after all of that, even the most unimaginable trials.
I mean, that's what's so fascinating about this. Despite everything, despite the years of pain, the separation, you start to see this little glimmer of hope emerge from this whole tangled web of deception.
It's like even in the midst of this ancient story, we're reminded that healing is possible.
Yeah.
That second chances, they're possible.
Absolutely.
And that sometimes the path to forgiveness, well, it paved us some pretty unexpected twists and turns.
That's for sure. You can say that again.
Well, there you have it. This deep dive into just one chapter of Genesis has taken us on a whirlwind of a ride. Betrayal, manipulation, fear, grief, but ultimately that glimmer of hope.
It's powerful.
And it's just this reminder that these ancient stories, they're still relevant today.
Oh, they are.
We all experience those same emotions.
We do.
Those same struggles, those same yearnings for connection, for forgiveness.
So true.
So the next time you think about the story of Joseph and his brothers, remember, this isn't just some Sunday school lesson. It is a timeless story about the power of forgiveness, the complexities of family, and the resilience of the human spirit.
Well said.
That's all we have for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.